We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy Show.
Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle.
And every morning we come to you for 30 minutes of power. Are you ready to get your morning cup? Are you ready to get your morning dew? That's what this is really all about. Got our
morning
cups.
Cup.
Where's your cup? Maybe you're on the road and you can't do this, but if you're home,
morning cup.
Come and get it. All right, guys, listen, we just want to welcome all of you. We know that you're reaching out all over the world.
Yes, and we're really excited about how many people are tuning in from all over the world, so much to the fact that we decided to get this really cool map. Look at this, y'all. Check it out. Check it out. Can they see it?
I think they can see that. Yeah.
Okay, so here it is. And this is what it's going to do. This is a scratch off. And so what we're going to do, I'm back in the mic. What we're gonna do is that as you guys come on here and say good morning to us and let us know where you're tuning in from, we're gonna scratch it off. So right now we haven't scratched off anything, though we know many of you are coming in from a lot of different places. What we wanna do is reach the 4 corners of the earth, and you guys can help us do that. So as we start clearing that map, and you'll see it starts to come to life with colors, then you know somebody in Dallas that didn't tune in, to get them to tune in. Then we'll have Dallas and we'll spread throughout the United States and internationally. So we're really excited about that. Right, Hassani, isn't that gonna be fun just to watch all the people tuning in from all over?
It is going to be fun, and it's more than just a cute assignment. There has been a purpose and a calling put upon our lives to spread this message of marital restoration all over the world. And we've been doing this for the last 10 years, and here we are now taking it in another direction by really live streaming. And so we want to know, when you sign in, put your city, your state, your country, because we want to honor you and help you become officially a part of the community. Now listen, guys, we've been talking about infidelity over the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about the challenges that people have and really beginning to move things forward. But before we go forward, we want you to like, share, and subscribe. Click the notification bell. You want to be reminded of when we go. Some of you are watching this later in the day, and that's fine because you're not able to watch it live. But for those of you who can, we want you to join our conversation.
And you can still share it. Even if you're watching it later on in the day, make sure that you are sharing it. Hit the notification bell anyway so that you do get notified that, hey, they dropped another video today. I want to welcome some people who are already letting us know where they're coming in from. JD from Kansas, Vincent from Dallas, Texas, Louisa from Texas, Cecilia from Nigeria, Torre from Lawrenceville. Okay, Torre, you've been tuning in. I didn't know you were right around the corner. Kenya, good morning. It says from Birmingham? Is that
Possibly.
Beham? All right. LaShawn is in Ohio. A. Marie, Virginia. I mean, they're from all over. We've got Washington, D.C. Hey, Monique. And we've got Kelly from Waco, Texas, and Queen from Pittsburgh. They keep coming in. Rhea from Australia. So as you can see, the message is spreading, and we want to keep that going. We're going to mark it, so tomorrow we'll make sure that all those places are scratched off, and we'll continue to do that.
Now, many of you are watching this alone. It would be ideal if you could watch this with your spouse. Maybe you're the one who's interested. Your spouse is not there yet. And that really takes us into today's subject matter. We're going to be talking about, how my spouse refuses to get help. My spouse refuses to get help. I don't know what to do about it. Well, we're going to talk about that and really unpack some of the reasons why that may be. I think that a lot of times, generally speaking, people have a negative, attitude or disposition towards counseling. And really, when you dig into the research, I could understand quite why. There were 2 questions that were done in a study that were very revealing about people's experiences with counseling. We'll take the time to unpack it for just a second. But the first question was, for those who actually went to counseling, was the counseling helpful, right? That's a legitimate question. Yeah. And according to the statistics, 57% said no. It actually made matters worse.
Wow.
23% said yes, but not as much as they would have liked it to. And 20% said yes, very helpful. So here we see 80% literally walk away unsatisfied.
Wow.
And I think one of the reasons that may contribute to that is that they're not necessarily going to the right counselor. I think because we see, oh, counselor, oh, okay, therapist, they're qualified. But there are all types of counselors, you know? And so you have to find somebody who's a specialist. I was just talking to somebody from Austria, like literally 2 days ago, and they reached out because they wanted some specific help because they went to a clinical psychologist who was talking about heartbeats and mind monitors, and it had really nothing to do with their relationship. And so that gave them a negative taste, a bitter taste in their mouth towards the counseling process, but they realized they need help, so they reached out. So I think it's important to go to the right ones.
And you know, people are just going to multiple counselors one after the other and getting very disappointed because when it comes to counseling, you know, you think about a specialist. You need a specialist in certain cases, and there are different methods by which you might get your counseling. For example, maybe one-on-one or one-to-one counseling isn't what you need right now. Maybe what you really need is something more in-depth, like an intensive. Maybe you need more time to deal with your issues. I hear people say things like, you know, we went to counseling and it was like ripping, you know, the scab off of a wound, and then we had to wait a whole 7 days before we got back into counseling to deal with our issues. So depending on the nature of your issues and how tough it is at that point, you might need something serious right then and there to deal with your issues. So there's a lot of reasons why people are really frustrated about counseling.
And the second question that was done in the survey, they said, well, did the counselor focus directly on the issue of the affair? Now, interestingly enough, 59% said no, just general marital problems. 28% said yes, but not as strongly or as clearly as I'd like. And 13% said very directly to help us resolve our issues. So here we see almost 90% of their experiences were not satisfied because their issue was not addressed. And so this is why it's important that no matter who you go to, no matter where you are around the world, that they specifically zone in on three particular things. Number one, you do want to focus on the marital recovery because when an affair has occurred, oftentimes it shines a light on the relationship in terms of what wasn't right, what wasn't working in the first place. So you need enough time and space for that. But then it needs to focus on your individual recovery process. We talk about how Danielle and I, we have a marriage story, but I have my own individual story. She has hers. And oftentimes we're in this journey called marriage, but our perspectives are different, our experiences are different. And you need somebody who can speak to both of those things. And when you have that, you're in the sweet spot. And then the third part is the affair recovery. A lot of counselors just don't touch it. They don't believe in dealing with negative, bad stuff. Or they don't have the skills.
Yeah, because I think any counselor is going to understand that there is a need to deal with the affair, but because of their training, counselors are trained a specific way. You come in there, they ask you some questions, they help you to pull the answers out of yourself. There's a lot of talking going on and pouring out going on, and a lot of times couples leave there feeling like all I did was talk, but I have no answers, I have no solutions, and I still don't know what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so maybe your spouse is saying, you know what, I'm not interested, I'm not trying to do it. You can get counseling on your own, but nah, I'm not signing up for that.
Because we've been there, done that, and it didn't work. And they just didn't feel good about being in the hot seat, right? We say this all the time. We're not fighting for your first name. So it's not really about whether I like you versus I like your spouse, right? We're fighting for your last name. And so both of you have to sit in the hot seat. Both of you have to be looked at and have issues that have to be brought out during those sessions. And sometimes couples go into these counseling sessions and they feel always ganged up on by the counselor. They always felt like they were the ones who were in trouble because maybe they were the ones who did step out and have the affair. And what ends up happening is all the other issues that actually are relevant and existed in the marriage get ignored.
And that's
no balance.
That's a good point. People feel like they're going to be tag teamed, ganged up on, and all of that. But the reality is, we say this all the time. We're equal opportunists. In essence, listen, if you're in the hot seat and the spotlight is on you, sure enough, best believe that pendulum is going to swing in the opposite direction, and we're going to deal with your spouse as well, because guess what? It takes two, right? So two people in this relationship together, so it cannot be all one person's fault.
One of my clients recently said, I know you're on my side because you're the woman. I said, sorry, I'm not on your side. I said, because Hassani's talking to your husband, and when we get together, we're going to talk about both of y'all.
Straight dizzle.
We are equal opportunists. I am not on your side. I'm on the side of right, and I'm on the side of your last name.
And you don't want somebody who's just going to be on your side because they're not going to give you what you need. I remember there was that show we used to watch on Netflix that we love. I forget the name of the show.
Netflix?
Yeah, it was on
Netflix.
Netflix. Anyway, so a couple was going to marriage counseling, and both of them were trying to bribe the counselor. Like outside of the session, they were like hitting them up with like hundreds of dollars to say, listen, before we go in here, this is the game plan. This is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
She was
And
taking money from the husband,
Yeah.
and then she was taking money from the wife.
Yes.
And so it just became crazy because, you know what? You want somebody with integrity, with character, that's going to tell it like it is, tell you the truth. Sometimes you need a coach. When you go into the gym to work out, you don't need somebody saying, well, if you want to do another rep,
What do you think you should do? Do you want to do 10 more or not? Do you think you should do some push-ups now? Do you want to eat right? You do not want that.
You want somebody pushing you, spitting all in your face, telling, give me more reps, give me more, maybe not
Calling
spitting in
you
your
out.
face.
Yeah.
Maybe not spitting in the face, but you want somebody
please
who's
don't
going to
spit in the
challenge you.
Right.
Listen, guys, we're talking about the reasons why your spouse may not want to go to counseling. We'll be talking about it more on the opposite side. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What are the reasons that your partner has given for not wanting to go to counseling? Let's talk about it in the next segment. You're watching the Couples Academy Show.
Welcome back, guys. You are watching the Couples Academy Show, and we're talking about the reasons why your spouse may not want to go to counseling. And there's some comments in here from Zach. Zach is from Ohio saying, morning from Ohio. My wife and I are getting help after she had an emotional affair, but we only see our counselor once a week. Your videos help tremendously to fill that void. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, listen, we appreciate that. Let's jump right into the reasons why people do not like going to counseling. Number one, we can solve our problems on our own. And it goes back to what we were talking about yesterday about the whole DIY approach. You cannot solve your problems on your own. You know, Albert Einstein said something that was so amazing. He said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. So if your mindset got you into the problem in the first place, it certainly is not going to get you out of that problem. You're going to need somebody else with different insight, a different skill set, a different knowledge base that can guide you out. And so the reality is, we talk about this all the time. If you've ever been on a plane before, when a plane lifts off of the ground, I don't care where it's going, from New York to LA, 90% of that journey is off course. The only reason why it doesn't wind up in Timbuktu and actually gets to its final destination is that there's a radar system in the cockpit guiding that plane, and there are constant course corrections being made along the way, latitude, longitude lines, everything shifting and changing in order to get to the final destination. Likewise, you need a radar system, you need a counselor, you need a coach, somebody that causes you to move in a particular direction. And guess what? The pivot, the course correct means you could read a book and get a great tip, and then you'll ride that tip into the sunset, but it's not working. You're steering off, and a coach course corrects you. A coach causes you to pivot in the right direction to get where you need to go.
I think about my daughter. She loves to bake. She loves to cook, Paris. She loves cooking. She's always doing something. She's a great cook, but baking, she messes up with the baking. You know why? She does not follow the recipe. I love you, Paris. But what happens is that she's like, you know what? I'm going to turn this up. I'm going to put some ingredients over here. I like cinnamon. I'm going to throw some cinnamon in there. I like a little extra sweet. I'm going to put some more sugar in there. And then it blows up in the oven. It overflows. It flops. It tastes weird, too eggy, too sweet, too much cinnamon. She didn't follow the recipe. And I think that's what is going on, is that people are piecemealing things from here and there and everywhere and throwing it all in the pot, mixing it together and calling it my marriage counseling, and it's not working. And this is why when Hassani and I work with a couple, we say, if you need your individual support, get it here. because we're all in alignment. We're all in agreement. If my husband is going to a counselor that has one philosophy, I'm going to a counselor that has another philosophy, and we have a third person that's our marriage counselor, it's nothing but confusion.
Straight up.
Like you're confusing the process. And so what you want to do is streamline your effort and focus on one thing and move forward in that direction. That's where you're going to get the most results. I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is. If you actually apply that to any area of your life, just focus in one direction, you're going to have gains. And it's proved out in life that if you're scattered, you really don't move very far. And that's what people are experiencing.
So true.
So the next one is counseling didn't work for us. And we talked a little bit about this in the beginning. And that has a lot to do with who you're going to. You know, if you need a heart surgery, you are going to a heart surgery specialist. You're not going to go to the dentist and say, you know what, you're pretty good with these teeth. Why don't you try my heart too? We're not doing that. What we're doing is we're going to the person that has tried and true, has proven themselves, has a track record. People have referred you because they had a heart surgery too. And their heart is pumping well and they are living. And that's what you want to do. People are going to anyone and everyone to get marital counseling, and they may not be appropriate. People go to their pastors oftentimes, and it's a good effort, right? That's the first step. You go to your pastor to deal with marital issues. What ends up happening is the pastor is doing the best that they can with their spiritual knowledge, but they don't necessarily have the skills to help you through the affair recovery. And I've spoken to many women who have been heartbroken, going to their pastor about marital issues, and the pastor will say things like, well, if he ain't beating you, then you fine. Not so. So we want to make sure we put our marriage in the right hands, someone who can really help.
And that's one of the points that we were going to talk about, going to the pastor. And you know, as someone who served as a pastor, it's important to realize that the methodology is different. When it comes to pastoral counseling, it's about breakthrough, right? So most pastors are trained, or at least the ones that I'm affiliated with the churches that I've been a part of, listen, do up to maybe 3 sessions, all right? And help them experience breakthrough in those sessions. And then after that, you know, maybe refer them to somebody else. You don't want to really get too caught up in counseling because they have other responsibilities and obligations. They're studying the word. So they don't have the time, the capacity to offer all of that. And to be quite honest, to your point, they don't necessarily have the specialty and expertise. They are there to provide biblical truths. And someone who provides biblical truths has to understand the Bible from Genesis to Revelations. So they're not specialists in infidelity or specialists in marital crisis, but as a pastor, as a church, they are supporters of marital restoration. Yeah. And so the best thing for you to do is go to somebody who's going to take you through a process. So pastoral counseling is about breakthrough, and traditional counseling is about a process you have to go through. That's the unique difference. So don't think that the pastor is the cure-all, because truth be told, a lot of pastors are in struggling relationships themselves, and they need counseling.
Talk about it.
So there it is.
I have a couple comments I want to jump to real quick here. Vincent is saying, I was once the one refusing. Pride, denial, and ignorance.
Wow.
And so it's good for you to be here and to hear that there is actually a great reason to go get counseling, to get balance, to get your work done for your personal recovery and for your marital recovery. And I think that's what Couples Academy is doing. It's helping people understand, you know what? It isn't taboo anymore to get counseling. It's how you stay on track. It's how you get to the next measure in life.
Everybody who's successful has a coach. You got business coaches, you got fitness coaches, you got all types of coaches.
Yes.
Why not have a coach for your marriage?
Why not?
That's the best thing you do. Anyway, we'll be right back. We got a couple more points. We'll see you on the other side of this break. You're watching the Couples Academy show.
Sign up today for the Better Marriage Club and receive exclusive access to the private Facebook group to get your questions answered and your problems solved. Access to our marriage library of live seminars. Watch the Couples Academy Daily Show. Call the help hotline for laser coaching. Get our weekly action guides and receive a private one-on-one call with one of our marriage coaches. To join the Better Marriage Club, simply text MARRIAGE to 973-490-4668. Join today. Your marriage deserves it.
Welcome back, guys. You're watching the Couples Academy show, and I want to jump to a comment here. From Tanya McCoy, she says, my spouse is old school. He is not going to counseling. We have other issues in our marriage, not cheating issues. So unless we can go deep into mental and personality disorders, I really have not experienced anyone to really touch on this issue. And you know what? I think that really speaks to the need for specialists. You know, when you have an issue with alcohol, you go to the Alcoholics Anonymous. Is that what you call it? You know, drug addiction, you go to those who specialize in that. And so when you have personality disorders and mental issues, you go to the person that specializes in that. And that's exactly what we're talking about. If you're dealing with infidelity and crisis in your marriage, you don't want to take your relationship anywhere. You want to find the specialist that can support you in what you need.
Absolutely.
Annette here's Antoinette says, how can someone repair their marriage if all they focus on is the affair and not the recovery?
Well, listen, first of all, the person who has been violated, they have a tendency to obsess about the affair, and it's hard for them to get beyond it. What we have found is that oftentimes the other spouse doesn't want to engage. So it becomes this tug of war. Like, I want to move forward, but I can't move forward because you won't help me move forward, because you deny me information, you deny me conversation, and I'm left to figure this thing out by myself. And that becomes the problem. So if you want them to get unstuck, if you want them to get beyond the conversation, engage with them in that conversation, and then slowly but surely the conversation will shift into relational
Absolutely.
issues.
We got one more. Kristen says, my partner is a narcissist. Is a narcissist. He doesn't want to go to therapy and doesn't want me to go to therapy because people don't need to know what's going on with us. We will break up if we go. What do you know what?
First of all, I want to jump to that. But before I do, because we have a point regarding that, I want to go back to Tanya. Tanya said, my husband is old school and he's not into that. And it reminds me of a quote that I heard by Eric Hoffer that says, in times of change, the learners will inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with the world that no longer exists.
Woo!
And so when people refuse to learn, refuse to get help, refuse to become, I don't know, knowledgeable about the here and the now, and teachable and coachable, they remain stuck in a world that no longer exists.
Wow.
So we've got to shift, we got to pivot, we got to change. Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
What about Kristen?
Now about the narcissist. Now, once again, she said, my husband's a narcissist, and
he doesn't want to go to therapy. He doesn't think that they need it. He doesn't want anybody telling him or speaking into his relationship. So if they go, it's going to cause them to break up.
It's similar to the point we were going to make. I don't want to talk to a stranger about our private affairs, right? And I think a lot of times they're so worried about themselves, their image, how they're going to be seen, because they're narcissistic. They have an evaluation of their own self-worth, and they don't want anybody to tell them that they're less than how they perceive themselves. And so they're resistant to it.
And by the way, narcissism is a personality disorder as well. And so you're really dealing with some serious challenges and need to somehow find a way to determine on what level are they a narcissist, because there are multiple levels of it and some are worse than others, right? But when you get yourself into proper counseling, someone that deals with narcissistic personality disorders where they can really dig into the details, and if they are willing, I think the biggest issue with narcissists is that only 1% gets diagnosed. I think it's 1 to 2% gets diagnosed because narcissists won't go to counseling, right? So it's hard to get them diagnosed, to get them the help that they want. So you're really dealing with an uphill battle on that. And now it's about you, if you decide to stay with that narcissistic person, it's about you learning how to deal with that personality to avoid landmines. But the best thing to do is to try to find a way to get them into counseling so that we can figure out where they're at and get them the therapy they need.
Danielle, you're hitting it this morning. But this whole idea of, I don't want to go to a stranger, I'd rather talk to somebody I know. That would be like saying, you know what, I've got this bad throbbing pain in my side.
If you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you're interested in one of our restoration programs, contact us today at couplesacademy.org.